Welcome back to a new episode of The Big Three, the monthly podcast where we unpack the biggest trends, insights, and stories shaping influencer marketing and the creator economy. I'm your host, Ceci Carloni, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ahene, founder of That Influencer. Ni, nice seeing you. How's everything going?
Pretty good. Just got back to the West Coast, was in Chicago for the week. My flight was delayed like 4 hours, but got
So,
home late and yeah, ready to chat about the month's news stories.
yeah, I'm ready to dive into, and I want to start by, uh, I want to start with the Time 100 creator list. They just released their first ever Time 100 creator list featuring creators like Dylan Mulvaney, Keith Lee, Monet Michael, Chris Olsen, and obviously MrBeast, Kaby Lame, and other creators. Time says they pick them not just for audience size, but for how they're shaping culture, politics, styles, businesses, all of it. So my question to you, Ni, is what was your first reaction to seeing a list like this from Time?
It's about time. No, I mean, it's a recognition that even the mainstream understands that creators are driving culture. It's interesting when I have conversations with people who aren't in the space, what I say is today's creators, the Logan Pauls, KSIs, Emma Chamberlains, go down the list, Hot Ones, Sean Evans, they are what musicians were in the 90s, at least in the States, but internationally, like hip hop artists or rockers, they were culture in the 90s, when, I was a teenager. But if you talk to a teenager now, the creator economy is upstream of musicians, is upstream of movies, is upstream because this content is in the face of folks and they are the tastemakers, right? When
Absolutely.
Drake dropped his new album, he went on to streamers like Aiden Ross and Kai Cenat to have them distribute the music. And so these are the tastemakers, especially for the youth. And then because culture, American and Western culture typically is youth culture amplified, we are starting to see that kind of above and going through. And so for time to recognize this in 2025, I think it's late because we could have
Mm.
we've kind of seen the shift over the last 5 years, but it's recognition that's it's well past time. So I'm happy that the mainstream publications are acknowledging like, hey,
Absolutely.
this is the way culture is moving. And I'm glad they didn't just use followers because they're right. It's not just about followers, it's about impact. That impact is going to continue to grow in different spaces and realms over time.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Ni. And what I want to say is that I read Times editor-in-chief Sam Jacobs' letter to the readers, and he describes creators as as the entrepreneurs who have built businesses through significant online followings and emerge to shape our culture. So again, for me, the fact that the editor of a traditional media outlet like Times describe creators this way says a lot about where the industry is going and about the attention and recognition creators are getting. But going back to the listening, I want to hear your thoughts about do you agree with the creators they chose? Anyone you think was missing?
Yeah, I mean, this is subjective, right? It's really about
It is.
impact and it really depends on kind of the content that you listen to and you consume. And so what I would say is there's definitely some creators that are probably on the next 200. And so I think about creators like the crossover creators, right? So you have a whole cohort of both retired hip hop artists, retired NBA players, football players that are creating podcasts. And so they're not
Mhm.
creators in terms of being completely creator economy, but they're using the platforms to create their own content. I think that's a very interesting intersection that, the Time 100 didn't really take a look at. Then you also have creators like AMP, who are super niche down to sub communities, both streaming and gaming and anime, that have an impact on culture. Like I see memes from them all the time, and that could just be my algorithm. And so that's the interesting thing about a list like this is because the algorithms are so personalized, the content I see is going to be different than the content that you see. And the question
Yeah.
is, what is that threshold when somebody breaks into the mainstream? And, how do we judge that? Is it through the memes that are, related to them? Is it through kind of growth in the accounts? And so, yeah, I'll be interested to see how they evolve the list next year. If they do kind of like a Forbes 40 under 40, where the first time that list came out, it was just 40 people, and then eventually became a bunch of different lists for different sub industries to kind of highlight the fact that, hey, there's interesting conversations and narratives happening across the board. So
Yeah. Well, this is my take. I don't know exactly who was missing. What I really care is they said they didn't really pick them for the audience size only, but most of them still have huge following.
Mhm.
Everyone keeps saying follower count doesn't matter as much anymore in the industry. So where are the mid-tier creators or even the micro ones? I would like to see a list like this with the top upcoming creators or the top 50 micro influencers making an impact or something like that. Do you think we will ever see one of those?
I mean, I know a publication called Net Influencer that might be something that we could see. So maybe that'll be on the horizon. So I think that's a good idea.
Absolutely. Let's discuss another story. YouTube's new creator did data sharing options. This is a new feature, an optional feature that creators can turn on, and when they actually opt in, brands can access statistics such as views, watch times, like comments, and audience demographic. What do you think about how this changes things when it comes to creator brand partnerships?
Well, I know what the hope is, right? The hope is that creators have an incentive and brands have the means to measure the impact and potential impact of their campaigns through having that information. What I worry about, and this is something that's always been in the back of my head, is that it's going to push more brands to judge creator partnerships purely on a performance basis,
Mm.
which is not necessarily a bad thing. And I think there's a role for that. But I don't think that a $500,000 brand deal with a major creator always makes sense, right? And if you're judging that purely off of kind of engagement, you may not see the numbers that you want to see. And so the
Absolutely.
tension that's going to exist between the creators and the brands in terms of how much information you provide, and does that mean that we're going to have performance clauses in partnerships? That tension is going to be very interesting to navigate. And it's really up to the
Yeah.
brands and their media buying agencies to kind of drive that conversations, and then it's up to the creators to say, "Hey, yes, it makes sense for me to release this information or not." So that tension now, this new capability is going to allow there to be more kind of degrees of negotiation when it comes to partnerships between brands and creators.
Yeah. I agree with that. I know, and also I wonder how many, like it's great in theory, but I wonder how many creators, how many people are going to actually want to hand over that much access, that kind of information.
Well, I mean, speaking about it from the brand perspective, if I'm Unilever and I'm going to hand over large checks, maybe not for the very top tier of creators, I have the leverage to be able to say this, but if I'm going to have an activation where I send a whole bunch of creators to a conference or to a game or whatnot, maybe that's something I'm going to require. And so again, I think the onus is on brands to say what they're going to allow and what the thresholds are, to allow it. And then it's on the creators to say, hey, can I actually live up to those
Yeah.
requirements or not? And so I don't think that when it comes to mid-tier creators and long tail creators, I don't think there's a shortage in creators out there. And so hopefully this is what's going to allow more mid-tier creators to come in and kind of equalize that marketplace, because we've had a huge concentration at the top in terms of who's making money in this space. And
Absolutely.
there's probably creators in the long tail that have great audiences that are super engaged, but for whatever reason, brands haven't looked at them. Maybe this is going to allow them to have an opportunity to say, hey, here's my rate card, here's access to my stats, and let's make a deal that makes sense both in terms of commercial and my time and my return on investments.
Absolutely. But I wanted to go a bit beyond the update itself. We recently did a roundtable with industry experts on this. And I think the general vibe was this is just the beginning of what real professionalization could look like in the space. I mean, It sounds like progress, like more transparency, more trust. And again, it's a clear step forward and a reassurance that the industry is moving away from vanity metrics to performance metrics. But is this really pushing the industry forward when there's so many other things still needed? Where else do you think we need this kind of infrastructure to level up?
Well, I mean, I think this is definitely a step forward.
It
And
is.
yeah, it's absolutely a step forward because these are the numbers that you use when you're buying traditional media, whether that's radio or that's TV or that's other programmatic channels. And so that's going to help to get new advertisers and performance based advertisers in the space. And so I think that's great. I think where we need this same level of detail is in influencer discovery. Unfortunately, a lot of the
Mhm.
discovery platforms out there, I'm not going to call out names, they're based on pretty much a semantic search, right? Like, great, let's go ahead and find creators who might have talked about X subject in the past, or they have this subject in their this topic in their bio, or they have this subject in on their descriptions. But the reality is that, especially if you're working with lifestyle creators or who are typically who you want to work with, they're going to talk about a whole lot of different things. And so I think the
Yeah.
opportunity is how do we then have an infrastructure to say, hey, this is a lifestyle creator. I'm talking about, I'm traveling to Disneyland. So, is there any Disney content that I can do? And like, what's the potential reach of that? And going one level beyond just audience to understanding, okay, here's the content that this creator covers, like in mass, not just in general. And then what is the potential reach if they create new content? And then what are other creators that have created content on a
Yeah.
similar theme? That's what we need in terms of kind of data and analysis. And I don't think the platforms are necessarily incentivized to do that easily. And so we're going to need technology solutions that kind of sit on top of content and semantics to be able to figure out, hey, here's an opportunity to create a campaign around, this activation or this event based on what creators that may not talk about that all the time are doing. But if they happen to be in Disney or they happen to be going to LA or they
Mm.
happen to be going to Las Vegas or whatnot, that's the next opportunity in terms of providing the true insights brands need to be able to have interesting activations.
Okay. So creator discoverability would be the next thing that you would fix.
Yes, at the content level. So because creators
Okay.
don't talk about the same thing. I mean, there's some creators that are focused, I'm a cooking creator, I'm a camping creator. But most creators, especially creators that people are following because they like the person, they talk a lot
Absolutely.
about a lot of different things. And so what is the opportunity to marry what a creator talks about and their interests with what the needs of a brand are? That's the opportunity I see that exists kind of, to continue to
Yeah.
professionalize what's happening.
All right, then let's talk about another story. Let's talk about Mia Selu. And if you don't know who that is, then honestly, you're either not in the industry or not online enough. She's an AI influencer who went viral for posting these super polished photos that made it look like she was, courtside at Wimbledon. She was wearing designer outfits, perfect lighting, sipping drinks in the stands, the whole, influencer at a major event vibe. But again, she's not real and she definitely wasn't at Wimbledon. She made some headlines this month. So I'm wondering, when you first saw it, what was your reaction? What this whole thing make you think about?
Yeah, I guess my take was I was a little bit surprised that it was such a big deal because we've had virtual creators for a
For a
while.
while now.
But I guess this is the first time an AI creator has been quote unquote at an actual event. And so I guess that is what was interesting because obviously Wimbledon is a big activation,
Yeah.
a big event. But we with the new models that are coming out from Runway, from Google with VEO, like this blending of what's happening in real life versus what's happening kind of with virtual pixels. Yeah, I guess this is where we're starting to get to that level. And so I guess that's what the anxiety that this story kind of tapped was. But as far as I could tell, she wasn't promoting anything. She was just there. I guess I hadn't read deep enough into
I
the
read a couple of articles about this, and on one of her photos, she was sipping this drink. What's the name? Pimps or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
not familiar. I'm not from the US, and that brand is not here in Argentina, so I'm not sure. But she was like, it wasn't a brand collaboration, but the brand was there in one of her photos. So I don't know.
Interesting.
I'm not sure what the intention was there. And I think that I agree with you. AI influencers have been around for a while now. But I remember Aitana Lopez, for
Mhm. Yep.
example.
Yep.
You could tell immediately she was an AI influencer because it showed. With her, with Mia, the models are clearly gaming up, leveling up the game. She was, I mean, if you only saw the picture, you wouldn't think at first sight she was an AI influencer. That's my take. But do you think, Ni, beyond that, do you think AI influencers like Mia are going to be like a serious part of the creator economy going forward?
I don't. I mean, the interesting thing about this Mia Zulu situation is like I think we still don't know who's behind it.
No one
And
knows.
I think it's novel. And so maybe there's going to be a small space for kind of these AI synthetic creators that exist. But do I think
Mm,
that's going to be the dominant kind of narratives that exist? No, because I think that people want to follow people. People love to connect with humanity, and especially as we start to work with more of these AI tools and everything, people are going to crave those parasocial relationships. And so, unless you have amazing writers and amazing kind of team that's creating interesting storylines and maybe that's what AI can help it to do too. I don't think that this is going to be a dominant part of the creator economy. I think this is kind of a novelty that exists, but for the most part, people are going to want to follow people. I feel very strongly in
absolutely.
that. And I just look at kind of traditional Hollywood, right? If you think about it, yeah, we'll go and watch, a Terminator movie, we'll go and watch, F1 movie or whatnot. But when it comes to who we care about the actors. We don't care about the storylines that they're in.
Yeah.
And that's how I think about kind of this evolution of the creator economy. Yeah, there's going to be space for interesting storylines and stories that these artificial and synthetic creators create. But at the end of the day, people want to connect with people because that's what we can say, okay, that's a life that I can connect with, I identify, I want to aspire to do. And that's how I think that's what's still going to be the dominant kind of force in the creator
Yeah,
economy.
I agree with you. I remember a couple of years I chatted with someone creating AI influencers to do AI influencer marketing. And he said that the thing with AI influencers was the advantages, I mean, was that they were cheaper, they were on demand, available 24/7, which I understand, but I don't think that's relatable. I don't think that's authentic. And that's exactly what I think audiences are craving today. They want to follow people that are relatable and people they can connect with. And that's something that an AI influencer cannot give you, right?
Absolutely.
Me, I have a question for you. Let's say you decide to launch your own AI influencer someday. What's their name and where are they showing up first? Coachella, the Met Gala, the Oscars?
If I created an AI influencer,
Yeah.
it would be a copy of me.
Okay.
And yeah, they would launch just on TikTok and they would do funny skits and I'd be able to say like I'm not dancing on camera. That's my AI influencer and they're just funnier than I am. I'm a business person, but my AI guy, he's out there having a good
It's
time.
fun. Okay, okay. I actually gave this a thought, and I'm gonna say that I would take her to VidCon because I've never been. I've been wanting to attend for a couple of years now, hopefully next year, but that's where I take her next, without a
Absolutely.
doubt.
That's
And maybe
awesome.
some other couple events in the industry. Yeah. Well, me, that's all for this episode of Influence Weekly. Thanks for tuning in and exploring the latest stories with us. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next in influencer marketing and the creator economy. Thanks, Nee. Until next time, I'm Ceci. Talk soon.
Thank you.